Jason was a tall, heavy-set 17-year-old black teenager whose presence often went unnoticed despite his large frame. Weighing over 230 pounds, he tried his best to shrink into the background at Lincoln High, always pulling at the hem of his oversized hoodie in an effort to appear smaller. His naturally curly hair was cropped close to his scalp, and he had a warm, deep brown complexion that contrasted starkly with the anxious dart of his eyes. Although Jason's quiet demeanor suggested someone who longed to be invisible, a closer look revealed a gentle spirit, attuned to the feelings of others yet burdened by his own insecurities. Despite the bullying, he harbored a deep admiration for Emily, the most popular girl at Lincoln High. She was everything he wasn't: confident, beautiful, and constantly surrounded by admirers. Jason knew she was out of his league, but that didn't stop him from fantasizing about the day she might notice him. He imagined casual conversations by the lockers, study sessions where Emily would ask his opinion, and maybe even walking her home under the soft glow of streetlights. In his dreams, weight and popularity held no power, only genuine connection mattered. Although reality reminded him that she might never see him the way he wished, Jason clung to hope. Deep down, he believed that if he could summon enough courage to reveal his true self, someone, maybe Emily, would eventually notice the gentle soul hidden beneath his quiet exterior. Emily possessed a captivating charm that immediately caught Jason's eye from across the bustling hallways of Lincoln High. At first glance, it was her radiant smile that drew him in. She seemed to light up any room she entered with a sense of self-assurance that Jason had never encountered before. Her glossy, shoulder-length hair framed her delicate features perfectly, and there was a certain sparkle to her bright eyes that hinted at both kindness and a zest for life. Even in a crowd, Emily's graceful posture and effortless style set her apart. She carried herself like someone who had never doubted her own worth. Yet, it wasn't only Emily's physical beauty that enthralled Jason. He found himself equally intrigued by her quick laughter and the considerate way she spoke to those around her. Whether she was chatting with teachers or friends, Emily made people feel important, a rare quality in a high school setting where social hierarchies could be cruel. The confidence she exuded seemed unshakable, as though no amount of gossip or pettiness could dull her shine. For Jason, who often felt overshadowed and judged, Emily's unwavering sense of self was just as mesmerizing as her outward grace, fueling his admiration in daydreams about her noticing him one day. Emily radiated a rare warmth, and it shone most clearly in the way she treated Jason at Lincoln High. Instead of ignoring him like so many others did, she would often take the initiative to smile and greet him whenever they crossed paths in the hallway. At first, Jason felt surprised and a little flustered by the unexpected attention, but Emily's kind eyes and gentle voice gradually convinced him she truly cared. She also paid close attention to the little things about Jason. Once, when she noticed him fumbling in biology class because he had forgotten his pen, she quietly handed him a spare with an encouraging smile. During a group project, although Jason was never the first to volunteer, Emily took the lead in inviting him to join her team and thoughtfully assigned him tasks that fit his strengths. She listened patiently to Jason's ideas, never interrupting or dismissing his worries. Emily's kindness went further when she used her influence to put an end to the needless teasing aimed at Jason. Rather than turn a blind eye, she confronted a few classmates who frequently mocked him, reminding them that everyone deserves respect. Thanks to her empathy and understanding, Jason gradually felt safer each day at school. It was Emily's gentle yet unwavering way of standing up for others that helped him realize that, even in a place he had thought would be full of judgment, there were still sincere hearts willing to offer hope and light his path forward. "Hey, Jason," Emily begins, her voice soft but confident. "I was wondering if you're free this Saturday. I'm having a birthday party at my place, and I'd really love for you to come." Her words hang in the air, light and comforting, though Jason's mind races with conflicting thoughts. He can't help recalling the countless times he felt too awkward to join a group or too self-conscious to attend a casual hangout. But her gentle gaze and the genuine optimism in her tone cut through his fears. She hands him a small, handwritten invitation, pastel-colored and adorned with delicate calligraphy. Jason notices that his name is spelled perfectly, as though she took extra care to ensure it was just right. Before he can reply, a burst of laughter echoes down the corridor, a group of Emily's friends calling her name. She waves them off and turns her attention back to Jason, her eyes filled with earnest anticipation. "No pressure," she adds, "I just wanted you to know you're welcome. It wouldn't feel right if you weren't there." In that moment, Jason senses that this gesture isn't born of pity but of genuine kindness. His heart lifts with a faint hope he hasn't felt in a long time, and he musters a small smile, giving her a nod that speaks volumes despite his shy silence. Jason spent weeks meticulously planning Emily's upcoming birthday, determined to make it an event she'd never forget. Despite juggling homework and struggling with his own insecurities, he found himself constantly daydreaming about what would make her smile. While he knew that Emily valued sincerity above materialism, he couldn't resist the impulse to splurge on expensive gifts, hoping they might convey the depth of his admiration in a way his shy words could not. He started by browsing online stores late into the night, his heart beating faster with every click on sleek jewelry items, designer handbags, and limited edition perfumes. Though his budget was tight, Jason couldn't bear the idea of settling for something ordinary. He opened a secret savings account, setting aside money from odd jobs he picked up on weekends, dog walking, mowing lawns, and helping neighbors with errands. Slowly but surely, the funds accumulated, giving him a mix of pride and anxiety, pride that he was working hard for something meaningful, and anxiety that it might still not be enough. When he finally settled on a delicate gold necklace inlaid with tiny gemstones, Jason's palms grew clammy as he clicked the checkout button. It was the most money he had ever spent on a single purchase, but envisioning Emily's eyes lighting up at the sight of it made the sacrifice worthwhile. As an added touch, he also wrapped a hardcover copy of her favorite novel, something more personal to balance out the lavishness of the necklace. With every ribbon he curled and every note he tucked into the gift box, Jason's heart swelled with both excitement and trepidation. He desperately hoped that this gesture would reveal a side of him rarely seen, generous, thoughtful, and utterly captivated by the girl who had shown him such kindness. Jason hesitated on the doorstep, his heart pounding as he gazed at the softly lit house adorned with twinkling fairy lights and vibrant balloons. The gentle murmur of laughter and the soft strains of music spilled into the cool evening air, inviting him to step into a celebration he had long dreamed of joining. Clutching his carefully wrapped gifts, a delicate gold necklace and a cherished hardcover book of Emily's favorite novel, he took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Inside, the living room had been transformed into a lively haven of joy. Tables were adorned with fresh flowers and shimmering streamers, and banners floated above a long, inviting buffet table. Groups of classmates mingled, their animated conversations and bursts of laughter creating an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. For a fleeting moment, Jason felt like a silent observer in a world where he once believed he didn't belong. Then he saw her, Emily, standing near a window, bathed in the soft glow of the evening light. Her smile was radiant, and her eyes sparkled with genuine delight as she welcomed each guest. When their eyes met, Emily's face lit up in a welcoming grin. "Jason, I'm so glad you came," she said, her voice filled with warmth and sincerity that made him feel instantly at ease. Encouraged by her kind words, Jason stepped further into the circle of conversation. As the evening unfolded, he found himself sharing gentle laughter, engaging in light-hearted banter, and even joining in a lively group game. With every passing moment, his apprehensions faded, replaced by a budding sense of belonging. That night, as the party reached its joyful crescendo, Jason realized that stepping out of his comfort zone had opened the door to new friendships, hope, and the promise of brighter days ahead. Jason's hands trembled as he approached Emily, who was standing near a window adorned with soft, glowing lights at her birthday celebration. The room buzzed quietly with the murmur of conversations and gentle laughter, yet for Jason, time seemed to slow down in this moment of courage. Clutched in his hand was a neatly wrapped gift, an elegant box that held weeks of secret saving and heartfelt anticipation. Drawing a deep breath, he stepped forward. "Emily," he began, his voice low and a bit shaky, "I have something for you." His eyes darted to hers, searching for a sign that his words were reaching her heart. Emily's warm smile encouraged him to continue, and she extended a hand, inviting him closer. With careful precision, Jason offered the gift. "I've admired you for so long," he confessed, his voice quivering with both nervousness and sincerity. "Your kindness and the way you light up every room mean more to me than I can say." He paused, his heart pounding in his ears. "I know I'm not always the most outgoing person, and sometimes I feel invisible. But every time you smile or speak to me, it reminds me that there's hope and beauty in the world." Emily's eyes softened as she accepted the gift, her fingers brushing his in a brief, electrifying moment of connection. "Thank you, Jason," she whispered, genuine warmth in her tone. In that delicate pause, Jason's confession hung in the air, raw, honest, and full of emotion. Surrounded by the soft glow of the celebration and the quiet hum of understanding, Jason felt a flicker of transformation within himself. Expressing his feelings had not only delivered his gift but had also unveiled a new part of him, a part brave enough to share his heart, one gift and one kind word at a time. Jason's hands trembled as he approached Emily, who was standing near a window adorned with soft, glowing lights at her birthday celebration. The room buzzed quietly with the murmur of conversations and gentle laughter, yet for Jason, time seemed to slow down in this moment of courage. Clutched in his hand was a neatly wrapped gift, an elegant box that held weeks of secret saving and heartfelt anticipation. Drawing a deep breath, he stepped forward. "Emily," he began, his voice low and a bit shaky, "I have something for you." His eyes darted to hers, searching for a sign that his words were reaching her heart. Emily's warm smile encouraged him to continue, and she extended a hand, inviting him closer. With careful precision, Jason offered the gift. "I've admired you for so long," he confessed, his voice quivering with both nervousness and sincerity. "Your kindness and the way you light up every room mean more to me than I can say." He paused, his heart pounding in his ears. "I know I'm not always the most outgoing person, and sometimes I feel invisible. But every time you smile or speak to me, it reminds me that there's hope and beauty in the world." At the party, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation as Jason, his heart pounding with hope, stepped forward to present his gift. He had saved every spare penny and poured his emotions into choosing the perfect present, a symbol of his admiration for Emily. With trembling hands, he extended the carefully wrapped box toward her, his eyes searching for any sign of acceptance. For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Emily reached out, her expression unreadable as she took the gift. Then, without any warning, her face twisted into a mocking smile. In one swift motion, she hurled the package to the ground. The wrapping paper fluttered and scattered as the box landed with a dull thud on the hard floor. A cruel laugh burst from Emily's lips, and within seconds, her friends joined in, their voices rising in a chorus of ridicule. "What a pathetic attempt," one of them jeered, while another chimed in with, "You really thought you could impress her." Their words cut through the air, each syllable a sharp reminder of Jason's vulnerability. Jason's world slowed as he stood frozen, his eyes wide with shock and hurt. The hope he had nurtured, however fleeting, was shattered by the merciless display of mockery. The festive lights and joyful music that had once made the evening feel magical now seemed to spotlight his humiliation. Every sneer and dismissive remark amplified the sting of betrayal, leaving him to question whether his silent admiration had ever truly mattered. Barely managing a whisper, Jason murmured, I thought you were different." His voice, fragile and laced with sorrow, was swallowed by the cacophony of laughter. In that excruciating moment, the party transformed into a stage for cruelty, and Jason was left to confront the bitter truth about the world he had so desperately wished to be a part of. As the echoes of cruel laughter and mocking jeers faded behind him, Jason stepped out into the cool night, the weight of humiliation heavy on his shoulders. The bright, festive lights of the party were now distant memories, replaced by the cold, unyielding darkness of the empty street. Every step away from the revelry was a step away from the person he once was, the timid, hopeful boy who had dared to dream of acceptance. In the solitude of the night, the sting of Emily's betrayal slowly transformed into something darker. The memory of the gift, once a symbol of his heartfelt admiration, now burned like a brand of shame. His pulse pounded in his ears as he replayed the moment when the present had hit the floor and laughter had erupted around him. The hurt was raw, yet underneath it lay a growing resolve, a promise that this humiliation would not define him. Under the faint glow of a street lamp, Jason paused. His eyes, red-rimmed with unshed tears, narrowed with determination. The rejection and cruelty he had endured that evening began to forge a bitter resolve inside him. The world had turned its back on him, but now, in that solitary moment, he vowed to rewrite his story. The pain he felt was no longer just a wound to be hidden, it was the spark that ignited a desire for retribution. With every step he took into the dark, silent city, Jason carried with him the seed of revenge. It was not a blind, reckless urge, but a calculated determination, a promise to reclaim his dignity and to make sure that the cruelty he had suffered would one day be answered. In that cold, lonely hour, his transformation was complete. The shy, overlooked boy had given way to a man fueled by a dark, relentless resolve. Jason's transformation had become his solitary obsession, a metamorphosis born not of vanity, but of an unyielding need for retribution. That night, as he staggered away from Emily's party, every cruel laugh and every mocking jeer echoed in his mind, fanning the flames of a burgeoning resolve. He was determined that the humiliation he'd suffered would never define him again. Instead, it would be the catalyst for his rebirth into a man unrecognizable from the timid, overweight teenager he once was. His path to vengeance would begin with a radical reinvention, a complete change in his appearance and a relentless pursuit of financial independence. Over the following months, Jason threw himself into a regimen that reshaped every facet of his life. Determined to discard the image of the vulnerable boy from his past, he began by overhauling his physical appearance. Early each morning, before the world stirred awake, he laced up his sneakers and hit the quiet streets. What started as tentative steps soon transformed into a daily ritual of running and strength training. With every drop of sweat, he felt his body becoming stronger, more defined, more capable of withstanding the hardships he'd endured. His once slumped shoulders gradually squared off, and his hesitant gait gave way to a stride that carried an unmistakable air of confidence. But physical transformation was only part of the plan. Jason knew that to command respect and, eventually, instill fear in those who had scorned him, he needed to reinvent his entire persona. He meticulously studied men who exuded charisma and authority, reading biographies, watching interviews, and analyzing every nuance of their behavior. He experimented with his wardrobe, discarding his old, oversized hoodies and threadbare jeans. In their place, he acquired tailored jackets, crisp shirts, and well-fitted trousers that accentuated his newly toned physique. Each morning in front of the mirror became a ritual, carefully grooming his now short, stylish hair, adjusting his attire, and practicing a measured, confident smile. The shy, self-doubting boy was fading into oblivion, replaced by a man determined to reclaim his life on his own terms. Simultaneously, Jason understood that a man transformed was a man empowered, and that empowerment would be incomplete without financial stability. Money, he reasoned, was the currency of change and the means to fund the next phase of his plan, orchestrating a carefully calculated revenge that would force his tormentors to confront the error of their ways. To build his financial base, Jason began with a series of part-time jobs. He worked long, grueling hours at a local diner, scrubbing floors and washing dishes, every shift a reminder that every dollar earned was a step away from his past. Later, he took a job at a hardware store, where the steady work and a modest paycheck allowed him to start saving. Yet, Jason's ambitions did not stop at mere survival. In the quiet hours after his shifts, he studied online courses about investing and entrepreneurship. With cautious optimism, he dipped his toes into the world of stocks and small-scale online ventures. His initial successes, though modest, soon snowballed as he applied the same relentless determination to financial growth as he did to his physical training. Every night, after a long day of labor, Jason pored over investment strategies, mapping out how he could multiply his earnings. Slowly, his bank balance grew, a silent yet potent symbol of his rising self-worth and the fuel for the revenge he so meticulously planned. In the solitude of his small apartment, under the faint hum of a desk lamp, Jason began to sketch out every detail of his scheme. He was methodical in his approach, weighing each decision carefully as he envisioned the moment when the tables would finally turn. He catalogued the names of those who had laughed at him, noted every instance of mockery, and even kept a hidden journal where he recounted the sting of each insult. But more than anything, he envisioned a future where the world would see him for who he truly was, a man who had overcome adversity and was now in control of his destiny. Friends and acquaintances began to notice the change in commanding attention. Though he still maintained an air of quiet intensity, there was an unmistakable aura of authority about him, a man who had transformed his pain into power. His physical transformation was mirrored by a mental acuity sharpened by months of focused study, and his new wardrobe and groomed appearance further solidified his new identity. Every compliment he received, every nod of approval from strangers on the street, was a small victory, a validation that he was no longer the victim he had once been. Yet, amidst this transformation, Jason remained haunted by the memory of that fateful night at Emily's party. The image of her laughing as his heartfelt gift was callously discarded was a constant reminder of the cruelty that had set him on this path. It was that memory, raw and unyielding, that spurred him on during his darkest moments. In quiet reflection, he would sometimes trace his fingertips over the scars of past humiliation, not as a form of self-punishment, but as a reminder of the journey he had undertaken. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night spent planning and strategizing, was part of a larger design, a future where he would no longer be powerless. As the seasons changed, so too did Jason. He had become a man transformed not just in body and appearance, but in spirit. With a bank account steadily growing from his diligent efforts and a physical presence that exuded strength, he was preparing to unveil the next chapter of his plan. The revenge he had long envisioned was not a chaotic outburst, but a calculated series of actions designed to dismantle the social hierarchy that had once belittled him. His resolve had evolved from a personal vendetta into a mission, a quest to redefine himself and, in doing so, to make those who had mocked him confront the consequences of their cruelty. Under the cool, indifferent gaze of the night sky, Jason stood at the threshold of his new life. He knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with obstacles, yet he welcomed each challenge as an opportunity to further cement his transformation. Every muscle he had built, every dollar he had earned, and every meticulously planned detail of his revenge was a testament to the power of resilience and reinvention. The timid boy of the past was no more, replaced by a man who had learned that true strength was born from overcoming even the deepest wounds. In that quiet, determined moment, as he reviewed his plans one final time, Jason embraced the duality of his journey, the physical and financial metamorphosis intertwined with the dark promise of retribution. With his eyes set firmly on the future, he stepped into the unknown, ready to exact a revenge that would echo far beyond the confines of his former high school halls. The world would soon learn that underestimating him had been its gravest mistake, and the scars of his past would, at last, pave the way to a destiny rewritten by his own unyielding will. 2 years after that fateful night, Jason's transformation is nothing short of remarkable. No longer the quiet, overweight teenager who once shrank from the world's cruel laughter, he has reinvented himself into a confident, assertive young man who commands attention wherever he goes. Physically, Jason's metamorphosis is evident in every detail. Through relentless dedication to exercise and a disciplined diet, he has shed the weight that once burdened him, sculpting a lean, muscular frame that speaks of countless early morning runs and hours spent in the gym. His posture is upright and confident, his face more defined and expressive, and his once dim eyes now sparkle with a determination born from overcoming his past. Every glance in the mirror is a reminder of how far he has come, a living testament to the power of self-reinvention. Socially, Jason's new persona has rewritten his narrative. The hallways of Lincoln High, once a stage for his torment, now echo with whispers of admiration and respect. Former bullies and indifferent classmates alike have taken notice of the change, their sneers replaced by looks of surprise and, in some cases, regret. Jason has forged genuine friendships with peers who appreciate his quiet strength and the wisdom that comes from his hard-won experiences. He's no longer a bystander in his own life, instead, he participates in discussions, leads group projects, and even mentors younger students who struggle with self-esteem. Financially and professionally, Jason's transformation has been equally impressive. Driven by the resolve to never again feel powerless, he ventured into the world of part-time work, small investments, and online entrepreneurship. Every job, from washing dishes at a local diner to assisting in a hardware store, was a stepping stone toward financial independence. With careful saving and a keen interest in business, his modest earnings grew into a stable financial foundation. Today, Jason manages a thriving online venture, a platform that not only supports his ambitions but also inspires others with similar backgrounds to pursue their own reinvention. Yet, perhaps the most significant achievement is Jason's internal growth. The bitterness of humiliation has gradually given way to a profound sense of self-worth and purpose. The flame of vengeance that once fueled his every thought has cooled, replaced by a determination to build a future defined by his own terms rather than by the judgments of others. His journey of transformation has taught him that true power lies in self-acceptance and perseverance. Every challenge he overcame became a lesson, every setback a catalyst for further growth. 2 years after his transformation, Jason had reinvented himself as Jason Cross, a man whose newfound confidence, refined appearance, and financial stability gave him the power to execute his long-planned revenge. His opportunity came when he learned that Emily, once the adored star of Lincoln High, was now drowning in debt and had been cast out by her family. Vulnerable and isolated, she had become the perfect target for the man who once suffered in silence. Adopting his new identity, Jason began frequenting the upscale neighborhoods where Emily now resided. With a warm smile and an air of quiet assurance, he introduced himself as a compassionate benefactor ready to help those in distress. He encountered her on a rainy afternoon outside a modest boutique, where she lingered with downcast eyes and weary shoulders. "I'm Jason Cross," he said softly, extending a business card. "I noticed you seem troubled, perhaps I can offer some help." Desperate for support, Emily hesitated before accepting his assistance, her cautious hope evident in her eyes. Over the following weeks, Jason's careful ministrations became a lifeline for Emily. He provided discreet financial aid to help cover her mounting bills and even offered temporary shelter in his modest apartment. Each act of kindness was calculated to deepen her reliance on him. In their quiet evenings together, as the rain tapped against the windowpane, Emily poured out her struggles, the crushing debt, the pain of rejection by her family, and the loneliness that had overtaken her once bright spirit. Jason listened intently, his gentle words and tender gestures making her feel seen and cherished, while all the while his mind meticulously recorded every detail of her vulnerability. As their bond grew, Jason's role evolved from savior to seducer. In moments of quiet intimacy, he would brush away her tears, whisper promises of a brighter future, and offer soft, reassuring kisses. To Emily, these gestures were the manifestation of genuine care and affection, blinding her to the ulterior motive behind his actions. Every shared laugh and every whispered secret drew her further into his carefully woven web. Yet behind the mask of compassion, Jason's heart was steeled with cold resolve. Every act of kindness, every tender moment, was a calculated step toward a final reckoning, one that would force Emily to confront the same isolation and despair that had once defined his own existence. Jason's transformation had turned him into a man who could manipulate the very emotions that had once made him weak, and now, with Emily's trust and vulnerability in his grasp, he was poised to exact the ultimate revenge. In the silence of his new life, Jason Cross stood as both a redeemer and an avenger, a man determined to make his past sufferer's memory a catalyst for a meticulously planned downfall, ensuring that the pain he had once endured would echo back with relentless precision. In the dim light of a quiet evening, Emily's heart pounded with hope as she sat across from Jason in the small, sparsely furnished living room of his apartment. Soft music played in the background, and the steady rhythm of raindrops on the window provided a gentle counterpoint to the intensity of the moment. Emily's eyes shone with tenderness as she reached out, her hand trembling slightly before resting on Jason's. "Jason," she began, her voice soft yet resolute, "I know there's been so much pain in your past, and I see the scars that linger. But I also see a man who deserves love and a chance at healing. I care about you deeply, and I want to help you move forward. I love you." For a long moment, silence stretched between them. Jason's expression remained unreadable, his gaze fixed on the dark corners of the room. Slowly, his eyes lifted to meet Emily's, and the vulnerability in his gaze gave way to a cold, distant determination. With a measured sigh, he spoke in a voice that was at once both bitter and resigned. "Emily, there are things about my past you should know, things that have shaped every part of who I am today." He paused, as if gathering the weight of memories too painful to recall lightly. "I was once the quiet, overweight boy, the target of cruel jokes and endless ridicule. I endured years of isolation, humiliation, and abandonment. Every sneer, every laugh, every dismissive word was a brick in the wall I built around myself." His voice dropped, laden with the anguish of recollection. "I vowed then that I would never be weak again. I transformed myself, physically, financially, emotionally, so that I might rise above the torment and reclaim a sense of power over my life." As he spoke, the room seemed to grow colder, the light dimming around the edges. Emily listened, tears glistening in her eyes as the man before her revealed a past steeped in pain and bitter resolve. But as the details poured out, the tone of his confession shifted from sorrow to something darker. "Do you understand what this means?" Jason continued, his voice hardening. "Every step I took, every sacrifice I made, was not for redemption or love. It was to prove that I was no longer the victim of my past, so that I could exact a measure of control over those who once tormented me." His eyes, once filled with a spark of vulnerability, now burned with a cold, unyielding fire. "Your love, as kind as it is, cannot change what I have become. It cannot erase the memories or the resolve I've built. Emily's hand slipped from his as she tried to comprehend the depth of his transformation. A man who had once yearned for acceptance now turned to bitterness and vengeance. Jason. She whispered, voice choked with unshed tears and shattered hope. Without waiting for a response, Jason stood abruptly. The finality in his tone left no room for further conversation. I'm sorry, Emily. This path was chosen long before you ever entered my life. I cannot let you pull me back into a world of emotion and vulnerability. With that, he turned and walked away into the rain-soaked night, leaving behind only the echo of his footsteps and a silence that screamed of irrevocable loss. Emily sat frozen in the fading light, the warmth of her confession dissolving into the cold reality of abandonment. In that lonely moment, the love she had so freely offered met the unyielding resolve of a man who had long ago forsaken the very idea of redemption, and with it, any chance for her love to heal his broken past. In a quiet corner of their favorite café, Jason sat with his eyes downcast, burdened by memories of anger and pain. Emily reached across the table, gently taking his hand. With soft yet firm resolve, she said, Jason, I know your past is filled with hurt, but clinging to that anger only keeps you trapped. You deserve to live freely and find happiness. Her words, full of compassion and understanding, stirred something deep within him. For so long, Jason had believed that his only path to reclaiming power was through revenge and bitterness. But in Emily's caring gaze, he saw an invitation to heal, a chance to let go of the shadows that had haunted him for years. As Emily continued, your strength isn't in the pain you've endured, it's in your ability to forgive and move forward. I believe in you, and I'm here to help you rebuild your life. Jason felt his walls begin to crumble. The memories of past torment, once so vivid, softened in the light of her genuine love. In that moment, Jason made a silent promise to himself. He decided to let go of his vengeful past and embrace the possibility of a brighter future. With Emily by his side, he began seeking help to heal old wounds, slowly rediscovering the man he could be beyond the hurt. Weeks turned into months, and together they built a new life, a life where laughter replaced sorrow and every shared moment was a step toward healing. One serene evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and they strolled hand in hand through a quiet park, Jason turned to Emily and whispered, "Thank you for showing me that love can conquer the darkness." Emily smiled warmly, her eyes sparkling with hope. In that gentle exchange, they both knew that the past no longer held them captive. They had chosen forgiveness over bitterness and love over revenge, paving the way for a future filled with promise and true happiness.